All right, everybody, back with another one. Today's episode is going to be another special episode. We're going to have a guest joining us. We're going to talk about today, probably just touch on three different topics. One of them is going to be the New York mayoral race, which is actually going on right now at the time of this recording, October 25th. I believe the ballots are officially open, allowed to be cast. The polls are not open, but they are allowed to cast early voting ballots, I believe. Technically, the New York City mayoral race is underway, and the candidates are Mamdani, Cuomo, and Sliwa. So we're going to see how things pan out for them. I've already gave my opinion on who I believe will be the person who wins your next New York mayor if you live in New York. But we will see. We're going to probably take a look at some polls right now and see how who's polling where. We're going to look at uh, an aspect of the government shutdown that I don't really see anybody talking about, that I have personally noticed myself. And we're going to dive a little bit into that topic today. I've done episodes on this in the past, which is weather modification, cloud seeding, chemtrails, whatever you want to call it. But we're going to take a look at the effects of that, on based on the government shutdown, and just you know, talk about some interesting points that I don't really see a lot of people talking about right now. And then we're also going to take a look at this recent FBI bust with Cash Patel and the Mafia, which they call the Cosa Nostra, and the NBA, and this whole like illegal gambling thing that's been going on apparently for the last 6 years now. I think it started around 2019 with an illegal poker ring, card gambling, and then eventually got into the NBA. And it's apparently being orchestrated by the same crime families that have run rampant in New York City for a long time, and that had basically we thought had been dissolved, had gone away because most of them had been arrested or had died, or other things, protection, things like that. So we're going to take a look at the mafia still thriving today and how they're using new technologies and things to continue to do racketeering and, illegal gambling and things like that, and see that, maybe the mafia didn't actually go away. Maybe it's still there. It's just, back underground again, the way it was when it originally started. So we're going to take a look at those three topics today. Hopefully, take a look at some interesting things together, but we're going to actually have a special guest joining us. Our former guest, Anthony Volpe, who we had a great conversation with 2 episodes back. If you didn't see that episode yet, I would definitely highly recommend taking a look at episode 96, I believe it is. And it is all about Anthony and his career and some great advice that he gave to, the audience, especially young people like Gen Z who were looking for a certain career path in life. He gave some great advice on that. He has a great interview that's up right now. Take a look at episode 96. We're going to be speaking with him again today, just to have him on as a casual guest and talk about some of these interesting topics that we talk about on the show. And we'll do this in the future again with other guests as well once we start getting more guests booked. With that said, we're going to jump right into the show. We're going to talk about those three topics today with our guest, Anthony Volpe. And first one we're going to start with is this whole like mafia scandal thing with the NBA and some other stuff that had going on. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to read just some of what I looked up as to what's going on with this case, what it actually entails, and then we'll talk about it. So
Sounds like a plan.
this is what the government, the FBI, is saying. They're saying that this is it's basically two criminal activities that was going on. You had a nationwide rigged poker operation that began in 2019 that used cheating technologies to defraud victims. The other is an insider betting ring that started about 2020, and it used confidential NBA injury lineup information to make bets. So I'm going to read a little bit more about what the details of that are, and then we're going to discuss it.
Sounds like a plan. I'm into it.
So this is basically the breakdown of how the schemes work. So you had the rigged poker was they had a couple different technologies. So they're using like new modern day technology to help them with these, like basically they've elevated their criminal activity to the level where they're integrating technology now. How funny is that? But they basically did altered card shuffling machines, able to read card in order, chip tray analyzers with hidden cameras, X-ray style tables to read face down cards. So that basically was like they had markings on the back of the cards so that when you're holding them up, you're wearing a special pair of glasses that can read the marking on the card, and that person can see if you have a king, a queen, jack, whatever. And then without actually seeing the front of the card where, whatever the picture is. And then contact lenses, sunglasses that could read the pre-marked cards. Off-site operations would determine which player had the winning hand and relay that to the driver at the table. So basically they had, which they did this years ago. It's actually funny. There's a scene about this in Casino, and we'll talk about that in a minute. I don't want to get into that now. But the other thing is the NBA betting thing was current and former NBA players and coaches allegedly provided non-public medical lineup info, intentions to alter performance. So if a player was going to leave a game early, or the lineup of certain players, things like that, they would give that pertinent information to the mafia. And this is people who are not only players in the NBA, but also coaches in the NBA would
Yep.
relay
Yep.
that information to the mafia so that they could use it for betting purposes and also to sort of like rig the bets so that they know they're going to win or they have a higher probability of winning. So that's the rundown of what it is. Let me just hear your take on what I talked about so far, and then we'll get more into it.
No, I think it's funny with all the technology and everything today, how they could read cards with glasses. Back in the day, you had to be smart to do that. You had to get a team together to count cards and do stuff like that. You know what I mean? But I was reading a little bit into it too, and it just it doesn't surprise me the slightest bit. Honestly, a mafia has always had their hands in some kind of gambling and into sports. It's almost like they're trying to stay relevant in a way. That's how I look at it when I'm reading these articles and I'm seeing when I heard about this bust the other day, I was just like, wow, the mafia 2025, they're still around, Unbelievable, man. Then you
Yeah,
then you
what's
see some of
funny?
the names. What happened?
No, you
I
finish.
lost you? No, I'm saying then you see some of these names, they had professional ex-basketball players involved and one of the guys, I can't remember the guy's name. Yeah, yeah. He was a guard or something like that. Whatever, doesn't matter who he plays for. But then and then coaches and stuff like that. It's like it's unbelievable.
Yeah, so I have here the actual players and the coaches who were involved that are on the actual case, like they're defendants in the case. With let's see, let's see, Billups, NBA coach identified in this. I don't know who that is, but I could look him up. But I think he's a coach for one of the states out west.
The Portland Trailblazers, I believe he's the head coach of that
Portland,
team.
yeah, Portland, yeah, that's what it was. hmm let's see. So you got
It was Terry Rozier. He was another one. Miami Heat. He was a guard for the Miami Heat. He was one of that's the guy I was trying to think about before when I was telling you. Currently,
Oh, okay. Let's see. NBA also named in sports betting indictment. So this is I don't know a lot of these people because I don't really watch basketball, but it's Eric Ernest, Marco Garzon, Jamie Gillette, Kenny Hahn, Shane Hennon, Horatio Hu, Zen Hu, Damon Jones, and then all right, those are other people under the John Mazzola, Nicholas Minucci, Michael Renzulli, and these might be part of the Gambino family, but yeah, that's that. And then you also had like tech people working on the technical equipment. They were listed on this too. Like they're all being charged with these crimes. Everybody, even the people who are like the IT people helping them with this stuff.
well, of course. It's like it's a big operation. I believe there was a former NBA player too that played a big role in it. His name is Damon Jones, something like that. He was an ex NBA player back in the day. It goes deep, and this has been going on since like 2019 or 2018. I was reading. So we're like, 7, 8 years into this, and it's like, it's crazy. But it goes back to like the Pete Rose days in baseball and stuff like that. You can't keep gambling out of sports. It's the way it is. People are gonna do it.
Yeah, that's a good point. Because a lot of people said back then, how could he throw away everything he had going on? He was one of the best players. He was destined for the Hall of Fame, and then he went down for this whole thing. And people thought, like, how could you be so crazy to do this over something that's so much less rewarding monetarily than what you had going on with baseball. Like that would have made him so much more money to just be a great player, making it to Hall of Fame, get endorsement deals and
Absolutely.
things like that. Why would you go this way? They eventually settled it as he was addicted to gambling. So it makes you think like these people, same thing. They're throwing away their careers for money that's way less than what they're going to make in the NBA over the course of their career. And you figure, why would they go along with this for that? It must just be the excitement of being involved in that. Or maybe the mafia had pressure on them and they were worried for their lives, so they went along with it. Who knows?
That's what I was gonna touch on. How much of it is influenced by fear? They got themselves involved with the mafia, and now they feel like they're in too deep, and they have no way out. Or how much of it is greed, really? Because if you think about it, it's like you said, you're gonna make so much more money being a coach for a professional basketball team than you are gambling on basketball, counting cards, whatever the hell it is that you're involved in. It blows my mind away. So it almost makes you think like maybe part of it is an addiction. Maybe part of it is the mafia has them backed into a corner. Maybe someone made a deal with somebody and they put pressure on them, and who really knows? I don't think we'll actually ever really know the full story behind how it all started, but definitely interesting topic.
Yeah, and a lot of it will come out as the case progresses and eventually once it becomes fully public because it is still an open case. But it's funny because what I found funny was a few things. Number one was going back to that point about Casino movie, the mafia movie years ago with De Niro and Pesci and all them. There was
Great
that
movie, by
scene
the
where
way.
the guy yeah, De Niro was running the casino, and the two guys came in with these little hand machines on their fingers, and they'd like tap their legs, and it had Morse code, and it would tell the other guy at the other table what cards the person at his table had, so that the other guy knew how to bet against him and play against him. And it was like that was the technology, alleged it was a movie, but the technology similar to that level was what they used back then. Now they're using such high tech things. What do you think about the evolution of technology in the crime game?
I think the evolution of technology touches every single aspect of life, from crime to sports to anything. It's kind of in a way cool. I'm not gonna lie. It's dangerous also, like AI coming into the game. That could be a huge game changer in betting and gambling and stuff in the future also. People were talking about, not to go off topic here, but as far as gambling goes, you could ask AI to give you the best odds in Powerball numbers. It's crazy, you know what I mean? And technology plays a huge part in it. Like I was saying before, there was a movie I watched. I think it was called 21. It was about a group of college kids from
Blackjack.
like Harvard or Stanford, and they just were so intelligent they could count cards. You know what I mean? There's a whole system behind counting cards, and now it's just with the technological advances, you don't really have to be all that smart anymore. There's it's used to have to be smart to freaking break the law and gamble.
Yeah,
It's
that's funny. I
definitely
saw that
amazing.
movie too.
That's a
I
great
saw that
movie.
movie too, 21. They played blackjack and they were mathematicians. They were like students that were good at math and they got roped into it by their teacher, I think, who was that actor. I forget his name. He's super famous. He got that whole Me Too movement.
Kevin
But
Spacey.
yeah, there was a good movie. Kevin Spacey. Yeah, that was a good movie. Uh, Yeah, what I find funny with all this is, and brought up a great point with the whole AI thing. Technological advancement, we always look at it as like an economic factor. Like, how's it going to benefit the economy? What's it going to do to jobs and things like that? But criminals are always thinking of it in a way of how can this help me commit more crimes and make more money doing so? It's funny, like everybody thinks of technology and advancements as how does it benefit them, even the criminals.
Of course. Of course. I mean, it's smart if you think about it because, it's easier way for them to commit crimes. It's an easier way for them to make money. Why would they not hop on the technology train? You know what I mean? If I was a criminal, I certainly would, you know? It's just there's always gonna be crime. It's never gonna go away. There's always gonna be a black market. It's never gonna go away. No matter how hard we try, no matter what we do, and it's almost kinda cool that they're keeping up with times. I don't know. It's funny, but it's I know it's breaking the law and all this, but it's just I don't know, man. I get a kick out of this stuff. I really do. It's like
Yeah, it
any
is kind of
company's
funny.
gonna keep up with technology. You gotta keep up with the times, even the criminals.
Yeah, no, it is funny. And you bring up a good point though, because it does make you think like, how is the future of AI and robotics gonna play a role with criminals? Because if you look at cryptocurrency, you're already seeing so many people over the last 10 years come up with these fake meme coin things, and they pump them up. They get everybody to put their money in, and then they dump them, and they take all the profits and run. And it's kind of hard to catch some of these people, especially if they're offshore. But it's amazing how like the criminals have even kind of made their way into the crypto world. Could you imagine what life's going to look like? What things could you think about they would use AI and robotics for in terms of criminal activities?
I'm telling you, like that. What's that girl's name that got real famous for something stupid, some stupid video? I can't remember her name. And then all of a sudden, she gets her 15 minutes of fame. She makes this stupid coin, pumps it up, dumps it, and becomes a fucking millionaire overnight. And all of a sudden, she's
Yeah,
off
that
the
was
face
that
of the earth
girl,
now.
right? Yeah, I think they were calling her the Hawk Tuah girl or something like that.
Yeah,
I
something
saw
like
I
that.
think I did a video on this too. Yeah, I did a video on this too, I think. I think involved talked about her in the past. But yeah, exactly. That's my perfect point as to what I was making with the crypto. She got involved in that scam too. And I don't think she was the guilty party, but I think she partnered with a couple people that sold her on, we're gonna make you a millionaire with this meme coin thing. And they
Oh
pumped it
yeah.
and dumped it. And they bankrupted a ton. People got really pissed at her for that, and then I think she just kind of went away. Not, I'm sure she still has stuff going on, but her fame really like crashed after that.
Oh yeah, and you don't really hear from her anymore. Also, it's just kind of weird. She just fell off the face of the earth. So, which doesn't surprise me. She got a lot of people screwed. So,
Yep. And there was this other guy. They made a Netflix documentary about him. He was one of the early people committing a crypto scam. Him and his friend, they were like, I think his family also had ties to the mafia, and he was like bragging in the Netflix documentary about how he was intentionally scamming people, and he's like almost bragging about being a con artist. It was one of the funniest documentaries I've ever seen. That was like a real documentary. Like it was really about a real person, real things. It wasn't they didn't add in all this stuff for a story, but it was this guy just basically like talking about, and other people too, the crime of him and his friends making this completely fake company, and they sold everybody on buying, investing in it and this and that, and it was nothing was there. They had no CEO, no nothing, but they lied about everybody, and they were like taking random people's pictures from the internet and putting them on their
yes, I think
website
I
and
think I
saying, "Oh
saw
yeah,
that
that's
same
our
documentary.
CEO."
Yes,
Oh, did
yes,
you?
yes, 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 yes. I believe I watched that same documentary too. Me and Marina watched it a while ago.
Yeah, it was really funny. But that just goes to show you, like, criminals are doing all this stuff, but even some of them are like, they don't care. They're doing it regardless, knowing that openly, like, admitting, like, yeah, I'm committing a crime because, like, that's what I do. Like, bragging about that is like a career thing. Like, that's my career path.
100%. And it's the world we live in now. You know what I mean? People just, I don't know. I feel like there's a lot of leniency with crime these days. So it's almost, well, maybe not with this administration that's currently in office. Obviously, with this big bust going on, now I don't think this bust would have happened under Obama's administration, not Obama, Biden's administration. But then again, who the hell knows? But I feel like there's a
Well, the
lot more
funny thing
leniency
is,
on
no,
crime
finish your
today.
point.
That's all. No, I was just gonna say, I feel like there's a lot more leniency on crime today, and that's why people brag about it more. They post about it more, like, it's crazy.
Or like record themselves going into a store and robbing it and coming back out. They like have no
Literally.
shame anymore.
No shame. People have 0 shame.
What's funny is I think the investigation for this actually started under the Biden administration, but it was from the FBI. So a lot of people were thinking that Trump's administration started this and they were the ones that, but no, this was something that was going on for a while because this whole criminal activity for the poker thing was like 2019, and then the NBA thing was like 2022. So it's been going on for 6 years, or a couple of years for the NBA thing. Biden administration, their FBI was the one that actually opened the case, is what I
Did not
what I
know that.
was reading online. Yeah, so this was going on long before Trump, or at least a couple of years before Trump, and they were just the ones that actually pulled the trigger on it because they were able to, I guess, get the case completed to where they had enough evidence to take it to court.
Sure, sure, and that's exactly what they did. Now you got 34 people, I believe, involved in this case.
Yeah, it's
34
unbelievable.
people, I believe they arrested.
Yeah, and so what also was funny that I looked at is it's the same crime families for the mafia that had been part of the mafia for 60, 70 years now, the ones that everybody knows, the famous ones, which are the Bonanno family, the Genovese
Yep,
family, the Gambino family, and then
yep.
a couple others. These are the ones that are notorious for, the mafia, like what we call the mafia. And their descendants today are the ones still doing this. It's not even like it's a new mafia. It's just like a new group of Italians that are calling themselves the mafia. It's the same families.
Same exact families that came here from Italy back in the day on the boats, man. The Sicilians, I believe, man, and they came here and they formed the secret society La Cosa Nostra. You know,
Yeah, that's what they're
that's
calling it.
that's what they're calling it, man. You know, and that's what they've called it. And you got the five families, and it's just amazing how for at least 100 years now they've been in the game. Because I believe they started in the late 1900s. I mean, early 1900s, 1920, something like that, when they all started coming over and forming these societies in the United States.
Yeah, well, a
And the
lot of it started
relevance,
in the late 1800s with the mafia when the Italians came, because the mafia had already existed in Italy, but it's those same ideas, those same concepts came over to America in the late 1800s, and then in the early 1900s is when they started really gaining ground, and it became a little less underground and a little more, you know, knowledge. It was like word of mouth, like people knew there was this thing going on. It wasn't as much of a secret anymore. But yeah, it's been going on for over 100 years now because we're in the 2020s. So it's amazing. You're right. How like the same, not the same exact people, but the same, you know, type of people have been committing crimes for this many, over 100 years in America. They've had a crime
these same
network.
families. These same families,
That's
man, the
like,
same families that produced the Gaudis, you know what I mean? It's like they're still out there doing their thing. They have their hand in it. You know, it's like they gotta keep up with times too. That's never going away. The mafia is never going away. I mean, I was very surprised to hear about it, but because you really haven't heard much about them. And then all of a sudden, boom, here they are. Nope, we just wanted to let you know we're still around. So,
and most companies don't make it 100 years, but somehow the mafia has.
of course, they'll make it another 100 years too. Trust me, they're not going anywhere. They're not
Yeah,
going
part
anywhere.
of
They
me
might get less
wonders if,
relevant with time, but
yeah. Well, they definitely changed the way they do things. I don't think they murder people anymore like the way they used to because it's just too easy to get caught. But they still do like racketeering and obviously, illegal gambling and things like that. But
yeah,
what I found interesting too was I just lost it.
you there?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I was just thinking about what I was gonna say. I just lost the idea what I was thinking of. Anyway, so yeah, so that's pretty much. Oh yeah, it was. I wonder if a lot of the reason why they were so successful over the last 100 years is because we almost glorified their criminal activity. Like we've made movies about them,
Absolutely.
Godfather, Casino, Goodfellas, all these things, TV shows, countless TV shows about the mafia and things like that. We've almost like made them a celebrity or something, cultural phenomenon in a way where we almost like glorify what they do. So how could you not expect that to continue to thrive when you put so much spotlight on it in a positive way?
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. I could tell you right now, when I was a 14, 15-year-old kid and watching all these mafia, I wanted to be in the mafia. I was like, oh man, I would love to be in the mafia. I want to be like, what's his name? Henry Hill from Goodfellas, because I'm part Irish, so I can never be made. And I used to walk around with fucking velour suits on with my hair slicked back I looked up to that shit. I wanted to be one. So it's like you're 100% correct. We really have, as a society, we've definitely glorified it. People dressing up as Al Capone and people worshiping John Gotti and people Tony Soprano, and it's just, I'll tell you, man, it's amazing. It really is. It's incredible.
Well, yeah, too. It's the same thing that happened with rap culture in America, where rap culture went from the ease of people doing R&B, rap, and hip hop, which was a lot different than what it is today, and it was really
Oh,
more about like the dancing and the fun, and coming up with cool lyrics, and doing this like thing, this freestyle thing, and being talented in that way, almost like an art form. To now, where it's this really weird culture of criminal activity, constantly boasting about the most, you know, awful crimes you can imagine. And you get young people who will look at that, especially young people in certain, locations. looking at that the way like Italians in New York probably looked at the mafia. Hey, it'd be cool to, grow up and be like that. That's why you have so many young people get into this lifestyle. And it's this weird thing of where, you get 16-year-olds, shootouts in the streets of Chicago. A lot of that comes from rap culture and
100%.
glorifying it. So I think the same thing happened with the Italians and the mafia.
That's absolutely an accurate statement. It's 100%, and even with going to the rap culture, not to, go too far off topic, but the rap culture today is so over sexualized that it's turning like young women into these, in better lack of words, sluts at very young ages because they glorify these women and how much they talk about sex and how little they wear, and it's just I don't know, man. But that's a topic for another day. It's just yeah, it's crazy.
Well, with that, I agree with you, and I think you make a great point about how it's getting the younger girls more and more open to sexual activity at a younger age. I almost feel like that's is done by design in a way to get young people comfortable with sex, so that it makes the sex trafficking trade easier.
True. Very true.
What do you think
Very
about
true.
that concept?
Man, we can go on all night about the sex trafficking thing. I'll tell you that right now, but it makes 100% sense. I mean, if you just look at over the last 25 years alone, how much more sex and sexual activities have been thrown into our society in front of our faces, TikTok, you name it. I mean, any social media platform, anything. It's so much more out there now. People did not do stuff like this 25, 30 years ago. It was behind closed doors. It was personal between you and your loved one or whatever. If you fucked around, you fucked around, but you didn't tell nobody. Now it's all over the internet. Everyone wants to be a slut. Everybody wants to dress skimpy and act skimpy. And I think it all does play into a factor to get people comfortable enough to strengthen the sex trade. I mean, that's another thing that's honestly never going away, unfortunately. You hate to say it, but it's been around for hundreds of years and it's not going anywhere anytime soon. It's definitely more looked upon nowadays, though, with all these people
Well,
looking
look at
into it and all the information that's available. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, keep going.
No, I was just saying, it's just, with all the information available and everything out there today, people are definitely a lot more open and They they see it, but it's still not going away. And why it's not going away? Why? Because there's so many big names involved in it. That's why. Because if they weren't, it would be away by now, you know?
Yeah, and that's a good point too. Look at what happened. Look at the progression, right? You had back in the day, people used to look at porn magazines like Playboy and stuff, and then eventually you had the internet. You had open internet where people were posting whatever they wanted in like the 90s and early 2000s, and then eventually things got a little bit tightened up where you weren't allowed to just put that anywhere. So they made porn websites. And then eventually social media was invented. Social media in the beginning was clean. You weren't allowed to do that stuff. Now look at all the platforms. You have pornography on Twitter, X. You have it on, Instagram. They allow a lot of that stuff. I don't think Facebook does as much, but I could be wrong. I don't really go on it. And then, TikTok and stuff like that, especially TikTok's one of the worst, especially with like young people. But then
Oh,
eventually
it's
that led to
disgusting.
the advent of like yeah, and then it led to like OnlyFans, which is where people got tired of posting their pornography on those social apps for free. So they made a social app just for people to post their pornography, but to get paid. They've incentivized it. We're not going
Yes,
back.
they
We're
have.
going forward with this. And now the latest thing is ChatGPT, I think, is doing some sort of integration now where you can actually like integrate porn into the ChatGPT while you're browsing and searching. It's like I don't really know. I didn't really read too much on it, but it's something to do with like they're now allowing the integration of it into ChatGPT, so even the AI is going to continue on with this whole thing.
Disgusting, and it's hey, listen, man, we're all guilty when we were young. You sneak into your dad's room, you fucking find his porn magazine, you look at it with your buddies. Ooh, it's like, hey, but that was normal. What's going on today is not normal. You know what I mean? It's really not, and the toxicity that it does to people's brains, which is medically proven, by the way, it literally destroys people's brains and they're getting these kids from such a young age. Like this OnlyFans it's absolutely disgusting. It's crazy. You got 18-year-old girls on there because they're legal at that point, and they're just putting themselves out there, man. It's like, I don't know. It's just a totally different world than I grew up in. I'll tell you that right now, man. And I'm the
Yeah,
first
and I've
person
I've
to
done episodes
acknowledge a
on.
beautiful woman. I'll say, "Hey, man, she's a good looking woman, oh, great, blah, blah, blah." But it's like, no, the porn is just, it's toxic, man. Too toxic, and it's too out there. And now AI gets involved in it. Of course, AI is going to get involved in everything. Doesn't surprise me the slightest bit. I don't know much about that because I haven't read anything on that with the chat GPT and the porn and everything, but doesn't surprise me the slightest bit.
Yeah, and you could see that there's a progression to it where it went from like, magazine to video to the internet to social media and now interacting with the porn star like OnlyFans is.
No,
OnlyFans
yeah.
basically brought the porn star to your home where now you can interact with the actual person doing the acts rather than just watching a video of them doing it and not actually communicating with them. Now they allow you to communicate with them. The next phase is going to be robotics where
Oh, yeah.
you have a robot that has AI integration into their brain, and they're going to basically look like a woman, and you're going to be able to ask them questions like you do AI and Siri and all that stuff, and they're going to be able to talk to you and have conversations with you, even though it's not real, as though they're a real person. And people are going to start having these people be their, spouse or girlfriend,
I know.
boyfriend, whatever. And that's literally where we're headed in this country, in this world, is
Scary.
now people are going to be dating robots or marrying robots.
It is absolutely scary, man. I believe it's already happening in like Japan and stuff like that, and other countries. They're called sex bots. I can't even like wrap my head around that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? It's like, I guess I'm the old traditional, like, I have one woman, I want to be with her. That's my lady, and that's it, man. I'm not looking around to go have sex with a robot or marry a robot. They're destroying our society with this kind of stuff, and I think it's all intentional, obviously. You know,
Yeah, well, what do you think that does to marriages with actual human people? It makes it
it
where you could have sex with a person that's not real, it's a robot, and never get them pregnant, or you never get pregnant, and then eventually it's further declines the birth rate in America because we're actually at a really low rate right now. I think it's like 1.2, which is we're not even replacing each other anymore. We're below the replacement rate. So we're not even having enough kids to replace the married couple, right? It's less than that. So our society is going to start shrinking soon. Over time, our population is going to actually go down, which hasn't happened in America since its founding, right? So if you now factor in robots to that, it's going to decline even faster because now you're going to be able to be in a relationship and not have any kids, but still be with somebody and not be alone and not have the pressure of getting starting a family because you're like, well, I can't because I have a robot spouse. So it's like that's only going to really, really hit the numbers of the birth rate in this country even worse.
Yeah, it is, and we're already at a very low point. I believe one of the lowest in our nation's history, as far as reproducing and people having babies. But then that all goes back to the traditional husband and wife household. That doesn't really exist anymore either. You know, now it's all about how many bodies can I get? How many women can I sleep with? How many men can I sleep with? No one fights for relationships anymore. No one fights for marriages anymore. Everyone gives up on each other. Everyone just throws it all away. It's like, because they want to just go have sex with the other person, or they want to go be with somebody else. And now you don't have to worry about that anymore because they're just going to get involved in a relationship with robots. It's like, I don't know, man. I think it all boils down to we need Jesus back in this nation, man. We really, really do. But again, that's a topic we could talk about any day. We can go on for hours about
Yeah.
this, man.
Well, no, it's so
You know?
true. I mean, I definitely see, I've said this in my videos in the past. I see a huge revival happening in this country. And I actually do think a lot of, the next few years, we will see a lot of people turn back to God and religion and faith in Christ because of all the craziness that's going on. And you're already seeing it with a lot of people now. I think it's only going to get bigger and better as time goes on, especially under Trump's administration.
No doubt, no doubt, and I hope it's sooner than later, to be honest, because we're going down a dark path in this country. Not in this country, in this world, really. With AI and with all this stuff going on.
Yep. So I'll wrap that topic. I'm just going to read this last thing. So basically, what they're looking to do is they're looking to get them on wire fraud, conspiracy, money laundering, and things like that, to how they
Yep,
actually
yep.
charge them. and convict them. And so that's what we're looking at. So we won't know everything because it is an open case, and you could, people can go look at this stuff online and check the Department of Justice website. They'll have some resources there for them to see, the different crime families that are involved, the different NBA players and coaches and things like that. So I always tell my audience to do their own research because I don't like, just giving the information, having people just blindly believe what I have to say. So I always tell them to go and do the research themselves. And I try to, when I have them, give them the actual resources of where to go and look for that stuff. So check out the Department of Justice website if you're interested in learning more about this case, see what happens. But I'm sure over the next, whatever many months it takes to get this case through the courts and get convictions, we'll learn a lot more on the back end.
Absolutely.
So, all right, the next thing we'll jump into is I want to take a look at there's two things. It's the government shutdown and how it relates to this one topic that I have an interest in. Because I've already talked about the government shutdown the past couple episodes.
Okay.
Now I'm just interested in looking at this one particular situation that is tied to it and my theories on it. But first, before that, I want to take a look at the New York mayoral race, which is going on right now. I think the polls have actually officially opened um, October 25th. So they're not open where you can go and vote in person, but I think you can, cast your ballots now. So they're going to run until early November. I think the election day, the official day is November, I think, but let me just double check that because it is
I believe it's the 4th.
different for each. Yeah, I'm not sure. I forget the day, but right now you've got Mamdani leading 43-ish around there because, it keeps changing as the votes are being cast, but 43 to 45%, he's in the lead. Mo is actually second at about 28-30%. And then Sliwa is the Republican. He is at about somewhere between, I guess, 15 to 20%. And then you
Sure.
do still have I don't think he's in the race anymore, but at one point you did have Adams in there. But he has since dropped out. So you pretty much have Mamdani leading by almost 50%. I mean, he's got the most amount right now. What's your take on this race? Mamdani, Cuomo, Sliwa, the two Democrats, Cuomo and Mamdani, and Curtis Lewa, the Republican, and what's going on with this whole mayoral race thing in New York.
It's crazy, man. Donnie or whatever, however, whatever, there's absolutely no doubt about it. Um, I don't know, man. He's absolutely not, man. Most of these kids in New York, most of the younger generation and stuff like that, they stand with Palestine. You know what I mean? They're all about the Palestinians, and they're gonna vote Muslim. They're gonna vote Mamdani. He's gonna be the first Muslim elected in New York, and I don't know, man. Something doesn't sit right with me with that. That's just my
Yeah,
personal
and
opinion on the thing.
and more importantly, besides the fact that he's going to be the first Muslim mayor, which by itself shows you the dynamic of the change of New York, which at one point, when before this country was even founded, New York was a huge location for a lot of Puritan Christians that came here from, Europe. They came over to America to, found this nation, make it a Christian nation. A lot of people don't know the real accurate history of America, but it's actually this nation is 100% a Christian nation. It's actually created by God to be the new Israel, to be a Christian nation of actual location for the first time in world history that was a designated country for Christians. That had never been done before in history. But now here we are in 2025. You've got the first Muslim mayor being elected to the biggest, most famous city in the world, New York City, and it's almost a guarantee he's going to win. But more importantly than that, and I'll get your take on this too, is his beliefs sort of contradict himself even because he's not even a traditional Muslim. He's really more communist minded, and it's not just going to be the first Muslim mayor in New York. It's going to be the first, like, almost officially declared communist mayor in New York.
That's right. And that's right. Democratic socialist, man. He has extreme views. He has extreme. That's trouble. That is just trouble, man. I can't. I can't believe New York got to that point. That's all I could say.
Yeah,
That's
well,
all I really have to say.
what's what's in
It just blows my mind.
what's interesting about it is that New York is at one point it was the biggest, most thriving city in the world. It's still top, but it is a city where it's built on capitalism. It's built on people building businesses there, from the small mom and pop bakery to the major corporation that has a headquarters and owns an entire skyscraper in Manhattan. It's a huge city filled with businesses that make that city what it is. Not to mention landlords, all these buildings, you know, you're going to have a communist come in and he's antithetical to that, where he doesn't agree with that. But that's what literally built New York. So what is it going to do to New York when a communist is now challenging the capitalist values that built New York?
Well, it's gonna get ugly in New York, I can tell you that. It's gonna get ugly in New
Do you think
York.
a lot of people are going to move?
I don't know. I tell you the truth, I really don't know because part of me wants to say yes because there's still a lot of, hardcore New Yorkers out there that are not gonna wanna put up with this bullshit, you know what I mean? And they're gonna like my dad, for instance, he's so pissed off about this guy, but he ain't moving. "Why don't you move out of New York, Dad?" Nah, I'm a Brooklyn boy, I'm not going anywhere." "Okay, alright." So
Do you
then
think that
what are you
the
gonna
mentality of Do you think that's going to be the mentality of most blue collar people, where they stay but the rich leave? Or do you think the blue collar people are going to also look to leave?
would think the blue collar people would be the ones that would wanna leave, you know what I mean? I'll tell you what, if I was in New York right now, and I'm not, I'm in Connecticut, which is not much better, by the way, fucking total blue communist state, I would leave. I wouldn't be I don't wanna be around for the aftermath of what's gonna happen with this guy when he gets elected. It's not if he gets elected, it's when he gets elected. He's going to win the race. I'm telling you right now, he's going to. New York is gonna vote him in.
Or do you think the blue collar people leave in droves, or do you think they stay and just the rich?
No, I don't. I think it'll be interesting to see what happens. To be honest with you, man, I think a lot of rich will leave. I think a lot of blue collar people will stay. And they should leave. Who knows?
Yeah, it's a good point. Yeah, you're probably right because a lot of people are very comfortable in life, and especially in a city like New York, they're so used to living in hellish conditions that they've just sort of become numb to it. So, like, no matter what you throw at them, they just learn to accept it. They complain about it, but they still deal with it.
That's that's exactly right, man. New York changed after 9/11. Not to bring that up, but it did. You know what I mean? It became a different place, and it just uh, I don't know. It's scary.
Well, to elaborate on that, in what ways did it change?
What ways it changed was it became more, I wanna say totalitarianism, man, you know what I very what's the word I'm looking for here? Well,
Like,
it just became
very controlled.
it became a very controlling type of place, man, and it's like you watch 20 cameras on you all the damn time, and you go traffic lights and speed cameras, and if you go more than 20 miles an hour down the road, you get a fucking ticket sent to your house. It's like you have no rights in that city. That's how I look at it as an outsider, but I also grew up in New York pre 9/11, and it was a different place. It was fun. It was fun to go out there. It was, "Oh, we're gonna take the ferry into the city," and now it's like, I don't wanna be anywhere near New York, you know?
You bring up a
That's
good
my
point
my
too, because
personal opinion.
yeah, you bring up a good point too, because New York is, I'm pretty sure it's Manhattan especially has more cameras than any other city in the entire United States. So they're constantly surveilling people on every
Yep.
corner as they possibly could, creating like this perimeter of just where if you're in that perimeter, there's guaranteed that you're on some camera somewhere, you know?
No
And
doubt.
that is crazy that the government is surveilling the people in that way.
Oh, it is. It is. It's not just in New York. I mean, New York happens to be one of the highest in the country, but it's all over the place. I believe Obama signed that act, right? What was it? The Patriot Act? Was that Obama or was that
No,
Bush?
that was Bush, right after 9/11.
That was Bush right after 9/11, but that changed everything as far as, the surveillance state went, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. It changed
Well,
everything. Air travel with the TSA,
everything.
treating everybody like a criminal, just for going on a plane, all kinds of stuff.
Yep, yep.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's gonna be interesting. I agree. I think Mamdani wins. I think that, the future of New York looks really bad if he wins, which I believe he's probably gonna. And it's gonna be on the New Yorkers because you had the opportunity to vote someone else in. But I also do understand that it's annoying to pick the lesser of two evils where you do have Mamdani, who is a, you know, extreme far left politician, and you have Cuomo, who is still a Democrat. So he's still part of that same camp, that same, party, but he's just a little bit more center than Mamdani is. And then you do have Curtis Lewa, who is not really known that well. He's known in his local community. He's known in the city because he's been doing, I think his group is called the Guardian Angels. They've done a lot of like charitable work and things like that over the course of his life. And that's great, but he's not like a figure that people know on a large scale in that city, and that's where I think it hurts the Republicans too. Like, why didn't you work harder at getting a really good candidate for the Republican side that people would know, that's charismatic like Mandani, and that is somebody that is electable where he's real good competition for Mandani. Why did the Republicans not do a better job at
Like
putting in
another
somebody
Giuliani,
that's really good? Like
like
another
another Giuliani.
Giuliani. Yeah, like another Giuliani who's still relevant today, ironically, where, he's so much older now, he's about Trump's age, but he had such an impact on New York that he became bigger than the mayor of New York City. He became
That's
a
right.
national person that people knew in all different states across the country, even though he wasn't the mayor of their state. That's how polarizing of a figure he was. And ironically enough, he was one of the major players that helped bring down the mafia at that time.
Yes, yes, he was. Yeah, and he also cleaned that city up unbelievably. It's just I don't think New York will ever. He was the best mayor, in my opinion. Everyone has their own opinions in New York's history. He was it. He was it, and that's what the
Yeah, he
Republicans
really did.
should have looked for somebody like him to. It's tough. They kind of put a guy up that's no chance. It's you don't have a chance. You don't have a chance.
Yes, sometimes it makes me wonder, not really wonder because I get it's a two-party system, but it's also a one-party system. And, unless Trump is pushing the Republican Party, they don't really seem to work as hard as they did with, Trump's campaign and some of the other Republicans across the country as getting in Republican candidates to at least run, even if they lose, that are really good polarizing figures that are, they speak well, they're articulate, they're, sort of like an Obama for the right that can attract a lot of people to want to vote for them. They don't work as hard with these important locations like New York City, Chicago, major Democratic strongholds where even if you did that across the whole country, like all the major cities, New York, Chicago, LA, Philadelphia, things like that, if you just got one good candidate for the Republican side for each one of those locations and you only got, you know, two or three of them, that would still be a huge change for the country in
So
flipping
what?
a couple of those cities to a Republican mayor. I mean, that would be huge.
Yes, it would. Yes, it would. It would be a victory indeed, that's for sure. But
But it's
unfortunately,
interesting that they
I
never worked that hard at that.
no, they don't. It's almost like they want these cities to be democratically ran. Yeah, and this scares me with this guy, man. It really does. This may be some dark days for New York. I mean, look at any communist country. It's like it's look at the way it's ran. Look at Cuba. You know what I mean? Look, just I don't know, man. It's just bad. Bad news. Bad news ahead for New York.
So right now he's polling between like 42 and 46%, depending on the poll for what he's at now. Where do you think he lands when this is all said and done? You already said you think he wins, but what percentage if you had to guess, do you think he wins at?
I think he's going to win by a landslide.
But does he win by 46%? Does he win by 48%? Does he go to like an extreme number, like 60%? Like where are you in this?
I'm probably saying he's going to win by 30, 40%. He's got it.
Well, he's already at like 42 to 46%. So he that's his bottom now. Does he get to 50%? Does he win 50% of the vote? Does he win more than
Oh,
that? What are
he'll
you
get 50.
thinking?
He'll probably get 50% or more of the vote. Definitely. Definitely. Well, see, we're
Yeah,
we're in
that'd be
early
interesting.
polling now. They're in the yeah,
Yeah.
early. What is it? They're doing the early voting right now, and then I believe November 4th is the day. He'll get more than 50% of
Yeah.
the vote. I bet you
Okay,
he
so
will.
you're at that point. I mean, yeah, I would say he probably gets at least 49%. I would not be surprised if he broke 50 and got into the mid to high 50s.
I think it's gonna happen, but we will see November 4th, and then hopefully New York's in good shape after that, man. Scary.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. I definitely see a lot of people leaving. I definitely see a lot of rich people relocating their businesses and leaving. The thing that's going to suck is the landlords can't leave because their properties are there. So if you have a business there, you could just pick up and relocate it in another place, make that your headquarters and still do business in New York, but not have to worry because you're going to be bound by a lot of the stuff that's where you're headquartered. But in terms of like the landlords, if he does a lot of things that he says he's going to do, where he forces landlords to have those fixed rents and stuff like that, it's going to really hurt them, and they can't just pick up and leave. You can't just take your building with you.
No, they can't. I mean, they could sell their building, but obviously, why would they want to do that? You know what I mean? They're being pushed out at that point. That's
Yeah,
definitely a tough situation to be in. That's definitely I would hate to be a landlord in New York right now. I'll tell you that. That's for sure.
and I also
I mean,
wonder if that's part of the plan too,
could be. Start pushing people out the door, start making them sell their buildings and stuff like that. Could be. Could be. I mean, this guy
and
is
then control
a
who they sell it to.
no, that's exactly right. And then they could pick who they sell to, control who they sell to, and it's like would not put it past me that he would do something like that, or he'd put pressure on people like he's going to with these fixed incomes. Their backs are up against the wall. What are they going to do? What are they going to do? Like you said, they're not a business. They can't just up and leave. You know, you can't pick the whole building up and move it into a different part of the country. Although that would be nice if you can, but you can't do that. So I'm
Well,
definitely
maybe we'll get there
interested
with
to see
future
what
technology.
what's that?
I said maybe we'll get there with future technology, and one day you just move
You
a whole
never know,
building.
man. Future technology. I mean, we could jack up houses now and change foundations out. So I'm sure eventually they'll figure out a way to lift the building up and take it away somewhere else. But I'm
They
interested
actually
in New
did that
York
once.
future. Where? New York?
Yeah, me too. No, they actually did that once, just to get off topic for a minute. It was a there was a building that was crazy, crazy project. And this was like early on in the early 1900s. They might have been the 30s or the 40s, I can't remember, but it was definitely earlier part, like I think it was before the 50s. And there was a project where there was a building. It was like maybe like 20 stories. So not huge, not a skyscraper, but it was a building, and the
Big
building
enough.
was like a telecom building. Yeah, like it was like a telecom building where they had a bunch of people working in there for a telecom company, I think. And they decided to move the building because the way that it was placed on the block, it was an awkward way where they wanted to subdivide the plot next to it, and they couldn't do that because of the way the building was shaped. They would either have to knock it down or build onto it. So they decided, a bunch of engineers and architects got together and said, we are going to figure out a way to actually move this building and not take it down. We're going to move it and reshape it on the block, how it's actually footprinted into the ground. So they did that. They actually figured out a way to lift the whole building up out of the foundation and turn it. But more importantly is the people that worked at that building never stopped working. They worked in it while they were moving it, and they would move it like an inch a day. They would move it like an inch a day, and they actually moved the whole building and relocated it back down into a new footprint on the same plot. And the people were still working in the building the whole time. They showed up to work every day, worked in there. They said they barely felt it.
That's incredible. That really is incredible, man. I mean, I know they could do it with a house. I didn't know they could do it on such a large scale like that, and to keep people working. Come on, that's a win.
And this is like almost 100 years ago.
That's funny, man. An inch a day sounds about right because now it's about the same, man. If you're jacking up a house, you could probably lift it up about an inch or two every single day. You can't go more than that. So, 100 years ago, in today's technology, is still pretty relevant. It's pretty accurate. It's the same. It's kind of funny.
Yeah.
Kind of funny.
Yeah, so it might not be that far-fetched if down the road we actually move skyscrapers.
Yeah, well, hopefully we don't have to do that in New York, man. Hopefully, we'll see what happens, man. We'll see what happens with this guy. I gotta plug it
Or
in.
could
My
you
thing's
imagine
starting
the
to.
technology of that? Could you imagine the technology of that where you can move a building? Forget it. Anytime you're in a city where the mayor is going to become horrible for the city, the landlords just lift their whole building and leave. That would be pretty cool.
That would be pretty damn cool. I think I'll go to Chicago this week. That guy's running things pretty good over there.
Yeah. Oh man.
Hopefully
So yeah, so that's pretty much it with this with the polling. Last thing I wanted to get into was something I noticed, and I'm not sure if you're that familiar with this, but there's that chemtrails program that's been going on forever. For a long time, the government denied it. They still deny aspects of it, and for a long time, it was like taboo to even talk about. But nowadays, we know it is like cloud seeding or weather modification because that's the actual technical term. That's the actual technical term that the government uses is weather modification. But um, they, ever since the government shut down, I've personally noticed that the skies, they don't have that same, chemtrail look anymore, where you see those white streaks across the sky. And people will say, like, it's contrails and stuff. That's not true. Contrails dissipate pretty quickly, and they don't
yes, they
expand and
do.
spread like that. They fade. Chemtrails do. So I've noticed I haven't seen those in the sky since the government shut down almost a month ago. And I looked into maybe, what's going on. Maybe other people have seen this too. There are some people online saying the same thing in other states that they have not seen this. Yeah, so I haven't noticed the chemtrails as much in the sky. And I thought, this must be from the government shutdown because they're obviously, it's a government program. And then I looked online and I saw some other people were saying similar things in other states across the country where they were also noticing that they weren't seeing the chemtrails in their sky anymore. So that's actually cool because number one, it proves that this is a government program and they really are doing it. Not proof, but it's circumstantial that it's a government program and they are in fact doing this because when the government gets shut down and you don't see it anymore, that's sort of evidence in a way, verifying. But what's cool is I've actually noticed a change in the air. It doesn't feel as heavy, doesn't feel as the sky is not as dim. It seems very blue lately and a lot of like nice white fluffy clouds. And a lot of times it seems like there's like a white or gray haze, which is annoying because you never really get to see the real sky. So have you
I noticed
noticed
today
anything like
actually.
that you are?
I was outside today and I was blowing leaves for like 4.5 hours. And I just remember sitting there looking up and I was like, it's absolutely gorgeous today. I don't know what it is. Now, I'm not sitting there saying that my brain automatically went to the government shutdown and chemtrails and this and that, but I did notice that the sky does look a lot brighter than it has lately. And I believe in the whole chemtrail thing. I know that's a huge conspiracy theory that people think is absolutely absurd. It's just condensation and this and that, but it's a real thing, and that's for absolute sure. Absolute sure.
Yeah,
Weather
so I'm gonna actually
manipulation.
go into that.
Okay.
Well, I'm gonna actually go into that now because I wanna put this. It's not even a theory anymore. People know this, but I don't think enough of the internet knows this, or enough of the people that get their information from the internet know this. But it is an actual program. So I'm gonna look at this right now. So for people that are watching this, if you want to find where it says this in government documents, it's 15 U.S. Code Chapter 9A. So it's a real government program. You could actually go on the uscode.house.gov. So it's an actual government website. It's the government's official website from the House, specifically for the U.S. Code, and it's Chapter 9A, which is weather modification activities or attempts and reporting requirements. So they're admitting in that it's a real thing. It's a real program. They do it. But I'm going to read through a little bit of it. So let me do that, and then we'll comment. So it's a real program. It means any activity performed with the intention of producing artificial changes in the composition, behavior, or dynamics of the atmosphere. So that's literally what that is. Cloud seeding, chemtrails, whatever you want to call it. They're modifying the atmosphere and they're doing it artificially, meaning putting it into the environment things that are not naturally occurring. So this specific thing of chemtrails, which is essentially spraying chemicals or whatever you want to, say those specific ingredients are, out of planes into the sky. Whether or not that's exactly how they're implementing it, which is the only way that makes sense because how else can you get those particulates up into the atmosphere without a plane? But it is a real program and it's actually documented on the US government's website, right? So it's not just happening in America. So it even explains the territories as to where they're doing it. It's the continental United States, then it's also the other states, Alaska and Hawaii. and then the
Mhm.
District of Columbia, and also the Commonwealth of Puerto Rico, or any territories in possession of the United States. So any territories, which there are many outside of America, that America technically kind of owns or has like ownership over, even though you can't own a freaking, it's not part of the states, and they're not adopted into the Constitution, but there are like extra territories that we basically consider we own, which is ridiculous in itself. But they're also doing it in these other locations, so that's really weird. So they report to the Secretary of Commerce, and they're going by the policy which was put together. It's called the Weather Modification Reporting Act of 1972. Look that up too. Weather Modification Reporting Act of 1972, and then the National Weather Modification Policy Act of 1976. So this was actually implemented in the early 1970s. It became an official government policy that they put into place, but they didn't talk about it. It was done quietly, and they just brushed it off as like some, scientific thing they were working on.
Of
And
course.
it's been going on a long time, but they didn't start actually implementing flying the planes over the skies and spraying the chemicals in the 70s. They just put the bills in place. And they do this on purpose. They'll put things in place like decades early on the books so that they could do it at a later date when they have the technology. They just want to get it on record now. So it's crazy the way they do it. But
I believe they started in the
this is what
90s,
they
if
say.
I'm
This is
correct.
their spraying, probably. Who knows? But we've definitely. I remember from my childhood, the skies used to look different when we were kids. At least in my opinion, the clouds were always white and fluffy, like the way that I've seen them lately during the government
Totally agree.
shutdown. The skies were always very blue, and then at night the sky was always very black with a lot of you don't see that. I haven't noticed that anymore myself. I don't know if a lot of people do where they based on where they live, but I did spend a lot of my life living in a city, but I've also lived in other areas, so you can't just blame like the city lights blocking them out. I've been in locations that were wilderness, and you still can't see the sky the way I remember it as a kid. What about you?
I agree wholeheartedly, man, because I
You
live
see
up
a lot of
in the boot.
stars at night where you are, and a lot of clouds and blue skies, or no?
Not as many as I would like, you know what I mean? I remember when I was young and going to, Lake George and stuff with my dad and my family, and, even Lake George. We used to go out to Pennsylvania, stuff like that, and I just remember being infatuated with looking up at the stars at night. And I live in a pretty rural area. I'm kinda off the beaten path. There's not a lot of lights up near me. There's actually no lights up near me. I live in the friggin' backwoods of Connecticut, and, yeah, I mean, we have stars at nighttime, but nowhere near what it should be. And I 100% have noticed a change from when we were kids to now. There's absolutely no arguing that. Absolutely no arguing that.
Yeah. So Congress even recognized this program, so they acknowledge that it exists too, and they actually acknowledge that couple things. So I'll get these points here. Some weather-related disasters and hazards, including droughts, hurricanes, tornadoes, hail, lightning, fog, floods, and frost, result in substantial human suffering and loss of life, billions of dollars of annual economic losses to owners of crops and other property, and substantial financial loss of the United States Treasury. So what they're basically saying is they come up with like like this is the situation, and then this is why we need to implement this. So they're basically selling why this needs to be done in this act, explaining there's all kinds of natural disasters that affect not only the weather, but the economy and all kinds of other things, which, by the way, those are acts of God, right? God created the weather, God created the rain and the snow and the sleet and all this stuff. So it's up to him to decide if there's going to be a hurricane. But they're saying, well, these natural disasters and these weather patterns exist and they interrupt our way of life. So for that reason alone, we have the right to modify them because we don't like that. It's like ridiculous. Like you're
That is
basically saying
ridiculous,
in this
man.
document, we don't like what God put into place, so we're going to play God. It's
And there's
absurd.
too much playing God. There's too much playing God in this world that we live in.
Yeah,
Sorry, I don't mean to
100%.
keep cutting you off, but I
So
had to
the
say
next
that.
part is weather modification. No, no, I want you to interject, so I'll try and pause and give you a little time. But there is a little bit of a delay. So the next part is weather modification technology has significant potential for preventing, diverting, moderating, or um, the adverse effects of such disaster and hazards in enhancing crop production and the availability of water. So now they're selling the people on, well, this is why we need this technology because it's not only going to offset the stuff, but it's also going to benefit the crops and the water and everything. And then they say this it's the role and responsibility of the federal government with respect to disaster relief to require appropriate federal action to prevent or alleviate such disasters. So now they're saying the federal government has the right to do this because it's in their job responsibility to do so, which is nonsense because that is not one of the things that's listed in the Constitution as what the
No.
federal government is allowed to do. They're basically just saying, we decided we're allowed to do this, so now we're allowed to do it.
Yeah, it's pretty much how the federal government works these days, besides, under the current administration. I can't really say that, but even so, oops, sorry about that. Even so, it is not your decision to change the weather or I don't know, man. This topic gets me boiled. It really does. No, it's not their decision to do that. The federal government's decision is not to tamper with the weather.
What about now?
You know, there you go. That's better now. Not only to mention what chemicals are they putting out there, and what is it doing to people?
Yeah, so basically that's what they were doing to sell everybody on it and then saying that they have a right to do this program. So then basically they say weather modification program may have long range and unexpected effects on existing climate patterns, which are not confined to national boundaries. So they're also saying by doing this, there could be repercussions that are out of their control and they can't even control the boundaries in which they remain in. So, like, let's say America does this, it can affect the whole world. And that's something that the rest of the world didn't sign up for. So, that's another major part. And then the other part of the program is to determine potential for weather modification. So, really, that's what it comes down to, right? It's a couple different things. It's weather modification to try and control the weather and allegedly help the crops and help the economy and all kinds of things like that. If it rains less, then people can keep their businesses open more and it'll stimulate the economy. All these stupid things they're trying to sell people on, but if you do that, you end up hurting the crops anyway, because you can't reduce the amount of water that they need based on what we want as people. But they're also saying in this they're doing this weather modification because they want to see what the potential is for it. Like, hey, if we can control the weather, what can America do with that? Can they weaponize it against other countries? Can they weaponize it against their own people? Who knows? But they're also building that into the program is we're going to not only do this for the purposes that we claimed, we're going to do it for whatever we can figure out to do with it while we're figuring it out, while we're building this, and whatever technological advancements we can come up with we're going to see how can we use those in the future. So this is a legitimate program. Like I said before, it does exist. It's based on an actual act that was passed, and this is why they're doing it.
So like my take on it is, what do you need to use it for? You know what I mean? And what is manipulating the weather? How is that gonna make you a better government, a stronger government? Let's say, you know what I mean? You're gonna weaponize it and you're gonna attack Canada with a hurricane. Like I'm not exactly sure what the whole point of this is. It just like you said, nobody asked for it. You know what I mean? So why are you doing it? Is it a power move? Is it like, okay, I can control the weather. What else could I control? What else can we control later on? And how are you gonna do things that are gonna affect the rest of the world? You know what I mean? And you don't know really long term what this does to people or what this does to the world or what this does to the environment, and yet you're doing it. It's just it's something that I don't think the government needed to do, and I think it's something that they don't need to continue to do. I let people vote on it. Let people make the decision whether or not they want that. You know what I mean? Government is too powerful today, and they need to not be. Let me just put it that way. There's no
What's your
beneficial
take?
reason I could see for manipulating the weather unless we're in like a serious time of drought where we're not getting rain for months and months and months and months on end, and you have to make it rain in order to have crops survive and stuff like that. That's a different situation. But again, goes back to playing God. God wanted it to rain, God would make it rain. You know,
Yeah, yeah, totally. And what's your take on the federal government saying that it is their responsibility to do this because they say so?
I think that's insane. It's not the federal government's responsibility to do anything. Their responsibility is to listen to what the people want the federal government to do. You know what I mean? It's a reach. It's a far reach, and it's not something that they should be doing. Government is supposed to have very limited
Yeah.
power,
Yeah.
you know?
Yep. It's true.
They shouldn't have this type of
And you could
power.
actually see most of what those powers are.
100%. It's just like it the f fuck the federal government, that's all I could say. They have too much power. They have too much power.
That's funny. No, you can actually see, like, if you ever want to know what their powers are listed in the Constitution as to what the federal government are allowed to do, and it explains it as this is it. This is all they are allowed to do. But we've created all these extra departments and offices over the course of this country's history, and really we need to shrink the federal government back down to a certain degree. There is stuff that's necessary today that didn't exist in the past because we didn't have that yet. It wasn't invented. So we do definitely need to still keep some of those things, but a lot of it is waste and fraud.
Agreed. Totally agreed. Totally agreed. But stuff that we didn't have in the past that we have now, that's different. You know what I mean? That's a different situation. It's like you got to keep up with times. You know what I mean? But manipulating the weather is just it's not something that is necessary to do. And the government shouldn't feel like we're doing it because we say we want to do it. You know what I mean? It's like, no, absolutely not.
Yeah. Yeah. So we'll see how that plays out. But it was something interesting I was thinking about because the whole government shut down, and I did notice the sky looked different again, similar to what I remember it looking like when I was a kid. Not as much, but similar. And I wonder if it has anything to do with the shutdown. I do understand that some of that stuff is private companies or state regulated, so a federal government shutdown might not affect it. But I think a lot of them also get federal grants, so they probably are still affected by the shutdown. But it's something interesting I was thinking about. Wanted to run it by you and see if you noticed anything where you live. And then also, if for the viewers out there, if you see something similar or you agree or you notice the sky is different or you see less chemtrails, definitely let me know. Share it in the comments and I'd love to see what you got going on and also name the state that you're in so we could sort of compare and see what's going on nationwide.
Absolutely, man. And like I said, I was
So
telling you before, it's
that's
Connecticut. I noticed it. I got nothing to add right now, man. I enjoyed this. It was a good time. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, yeah. Thanks for coming, Anthony Volpe. Appreciate you joining us today. We'll see if we can get you on for another one in the future.
That would be awesome. I would love it.
All right, man. Take care. Well, that was it. We had Anthony Volpe as our guest this episode. Again, just wanted to talk about some other topics and get his take on some things, give a little insight into what he can offer, like living in Connecticut and seeing what the government shutdown and the chemtrails and that have effect has had in his area. But that's something that's personal and unique to him that he can offer to the conversation. And also growing up in New York, like he said, he had a little insight and on the whole mayoral race that's happening in New York and what that's got going on, and also remembering back to, what New York looked like before 9/11 and how it's changed so much and where it is today. That's also insight that he was able to add because he grew up in New York and things like that. So definitely liked having him as a guest. Let me know if you did too. Put that in the comments section. And also don't forget to, let me know if there's other guests you'd like to see us have on here. We're definitely open to having a lot of different types of people from all different careers and all different walks of life. So definitely put that in the comments or private message me. But yeah, that's it for this video. Don't forget to like, follow, subscribe, share, all that good stuff as always. And don't forget to stay for the ads at the end. The holidays are coming up now, so it's a good time to put your orders in for the apparel shop, get some great, interesting apparel that's a lot of it's faith based. So you have some really cool designs that are all custom made from us in house here. We have my children's book, Little Boy Full of Love, which is available on sale right now. Great gift for the holidays for anybody that has a kid. And we have our Amazon storefront, which has a lot of different types of items on there. Also, some really cool health related items. Some interesting stuff that is definitely more on the alternative or natural side of things. But we do have some really cool stuff on there that makes life a little bit, better. A lot of it is which what we use in our own daily lives. So it is stuff that we actually bought and just, whatever other stuff we got going on, we'll put that in the show notes for you. But definitely take a look at that stuff. Get your orders in time for the holidays. And that is it for this episode. Stay tuned for the next one. All right, everybody. I just want to take a moment to promote my children's book. This is Little Boy Full of Love. That's me on the back. And this is a little sneak peek on the inside. It's a great book. It's a children's book. I actually wrote this for my son, and it's available right now on Amazon, Walmart, Barnes & Noble, Indigo, Bookshop.org, and a lot of other online platforms. But more importantly to me, it's actually available in a lot of bookstores throughout the country. You can find out which ones are closest to you on my Instagram page. You know, we highly recommend that you shop local, buy from a local bookstore. So if you are looking to, get a children's book for you or anybody you know, or even with the holidays coming up, it's a great time to, buy a children's book as a gift. Definitely get it from a bookstore that's local to you. But if you absolutely can't get it from one of the bookstores that are currently carrying it right now, and we're in about 15 or 16 different states across the country, so it may actually be in your state, and it could even be local to you. But if you can't get it from the physical bookstore, check out our Amazon storefront. The book's available on there right now. And like I said, with the holidays coming up, you may want to do your Christmas or Hanukkah or holiday shopping early, and you can even order it from our Amazon storefront and ship it directly to whoever you're gifting it to. But it's available on those platforms, Amazon storefront and bookstores and other websites that I mentioned. But I want to take a moment here to look at the storefront just to give you an idea of some other stuff that we have available on there. These are products that we highly recommend. They are things that we use in our daily lives, and it's all organized by category. So it's a lot easier to, shop for the holidays and specifically for things that interest you, particular categories. Available right now, many different items on our storefront. If you can see here, 61 items just in women's apparel, fall decor, because right now we're in fall, 26 items, kitchen items, baking specifically, things for around the house, children's toys, even stuff for parties. If you're trying to save money on a party and throwing your own, occasion, you can even buy some cool gadgets here to help you, put on a better party. Health and wellness items here, even stuff for Christmas. And there's the book right there. So you can get it from the storefront. You can get it from the bookstores, like I mentioned. But it's available on all these different platforms. It's really easy to find and gift to somebody. Also, I want to show you the apparel shop, and these are some clothing items that we actually produced. So if you're looking to get some cool apparel items, shirts, hoodies, long sleeve, short sleeve, leggings, even accessories, cell phone cases, women's makeup bags, fanny packs, coffee mugs, all different types of stuff, even some, art, all different categories here, apparel, homeware, accessories, drinks, even digital items. It's all on this store, healthybodygoodssoul.com. Anything that pertains to you or somebody that you're looking to get a gift for the holidays. A lot of great designs on here, a lot of cool designs that we actually custom created. Stainless steel water bottles, especially now with the fall and winter. A lot of cool hoodies and long sleeve shirts. This is a really cool one, I think, for women. The original Be Your Soul apparel, that one's actually really popular. People tend to like that. This one's one of my favorites. The free shirt. It's the American flag, and it says free, and that says not property of the United States government. That one's pretty cool. Got all different types of tank tops, hoodies, long sleeve, short sleeve, tote bags, coffee mugs, even some items for kids, backpacks. So if you're the type that likes to, plan ahead, I would definitely recommend ordering from the Amazon storefront or the apparel shop within the next couple of weeks to get everything in time for the holidays. Use code SAVE15 on the apparel shop to save 15% off everything on the storefront. So order within the next week or two, and you'll definitely have everything in time for the holidays. Definitely check out all the links to everything, the Amazon storefront, the book, and the apparel shop in my bio on all my platforms, Rumble, YouTube, Instagram, Spotify. But you can also find them in all the show notes for every episode that I post and get all your orders in time for the holidays. All right, that's it for this video. Don't forget to like, follow, subscribe, share, all that good stuff. It helps the channel continue to grow. And put in the comments things that you would like me to talk about and make videos on for the future. And I will definitely do my best to do that. Stay tuned for the next one.